And these servos happen to have been delivered at their midpoint, but you could also plug them into a receiver and drive them to the midpoint that way. Now then, I need a screwdriver. Guess what I don't have out? Actually I do, but I wasn't prepared for one, so this may be the... it'll do. Okay, I'm going to screw this down carefully, because if this screw is too long, I don't want to drive it through the bottom of the gear, because that'll basically ruin the servo. Okay. It doesn't... again, it's not something you have to crank down. It has to hold, basically stop that moving up and down. That's its job, that's it. If it does that, that's its job done. Because it's going into nylon gear, it is unlikely that it will unscrew. So that's that servo done. That's the steering servo. And now a cup of tea. That and the fact that it's currently 26 degrees here in the studio means I just want to dry my face. Okay, so our next one is the gearbox servo, the shifting servo. It's got a shift servo they call it. So again, very similar construction, only now there's sort of a little bit more of a fancy top on it. And the fancy top is an adjustment. So I already know I need a Tamiya, so I need E12, which is this one. Since all the servos will be the same. E12, E1, which is another one of these safety rings. Of course, I guess in principle, if you've got an advanced radio that lets you do things like set endpoint adjustments and things like that, then you may not need. You might not need something like this. But part of the idea that where these are used, especially on things like steering servos, is that, for example, if you hit something which causes the wheels to bounce, on the truck you probably wouldn't, but on a high-speed vehicle you might, then this sort of thing also saves the servo because it doesn't transfer as much of the shock. I'm just taking a sharp edge off that. So servo savers, as they get called, can be useful, but there again they can also, if they are not well designed or might not be suited to certain particular types of vehicles, because they might not be able to drive the steering very well, because the servo is, if it's badly designed, it's too weak. It will bend or relieve the force that you actually want to go to the wheels. So they have to be made for the force that you expect to put on them, I think is a way of describing it. So if you are, I suppose I'm trying to think of the sort of thing, but if you've got a really heavy vehicle, maybe something like a rock crawler perhaps, then if these are too weak, the servo turns, the wheels don't, because this is effectively not doing its job very well, but doing its job. So there's that goes on top of there. I should get another servo out, shouldn't I? This, by the way, you've got to open up. It's not hard, it's not easy, but it's not hard. You just got to cause the two ends to separate slightly. If you've got a problem with doing that, what you can do is get something like a small screwdriver, just drop it into the hole, flat screwdriver, twist it slightly, that will cause it to open up, and then you can just push it down over the top. Right, so we've got E1, we now need part E7, and again this is a part This has been designed, if you like, and I guess it was designed a long time ago when radios were less sophisticated than they are now, and also I guess for people who maybe don't understand about certain, or about how to do it in without using these sorts of tools, and I'll explain what I'm talking about in a second, and I've got some other bits to put on E2. Servos, how much a servo moves, as you might be aware, is determined by how much you move the control on the radio, either like the steering wheel or the throttle, or an air radio, how much you move the sticks. Now, when you go from like the centre all the way to one end, like for steering, for example, you move the stick all the way to one end. That may cause a servo to move more than the wheels will actually turn. And at that point, that starts the process of burning the servo out, because you're overdriving it. It takes too much current. You flatten your batteries a lot quicker, and a lot of things like that. What you should do is match the amount of steering you've got to the amount that the servo moves. And this is geometry. The way it used to be done a long time ago would be by varying where this hole is. And when you get servos, they come with all of these things. He says, again, I've got to try and remember to be on camera. I'm stood a bit too far away. Let me move that light, because that's causing me to stand too far back. But let me just get one of these out. I'll show you. These are the normal servo arms. There's a whole different shapes of them, but these come with these servos normally. And if you can see, there's a whole series of arms in there. A whole series of arms. There is a whole series of arms, but I'm talking about the holes. And there's in each of these there's 4 holes. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you know geometry, this light. There we go. So if I were to connect to this hole here, when the servo moves, this hole doesn't move very much. As I move further away from the centre, it moves more. So you pick the right hole to connect your thing, which is going to the steering wheel, the steerable wheels, for example, so that when this moves as far as your radio will let it, then your wheels go as far as they can, and you basically match the position to the amount you want the wheels to move. These days that's less important, because with many modern radios you get something now called endpoint adjustment, EPA, or other words meaning somewhat the same. And really what that is, instead of adjusting your servos, what you do is you adjust the radio. You say to your radio that this amount of movement means this amount of turn on the servo, so you adjust how far the servo moves in response to you giving it the maximum movement on the stick or the wheel. So it's less, that adjustment is less of a problem. Now what's happening, what's going on top of here is something the same as the arm I just showed you, but this one's a little bit more sophisticated, or a little bit more flexible, in that this is 2 parts. This, which I've just dropped on the floor, and I have to get the right way up, which is that way. It doesn't matter which way around it is now. Okay, this has, effectively it slides forwards and backs, but there's two points on the edge here which match with notches. So you can set how far this hole is from the centre by just repositioning it. on this servo top here. So by doing that you can match the amount of servo movement to the gearbox movement. So this is kind of like an adjustable version, or an easily adjustable version of the things that they used to do. Still quite a useful thing to do. Now then, I now want MA6 nut to go in the top of there along with that washer. So MA6 is, I think, the long one, which is this one, not that one, it's that one, the long silver one. Now this one is longer than the other one, because this top is longer than the other one. I still haven't got a servo out, have I? I've got the servo top all prepared, but I didn't get the servo out, so we'll just grab another one. I kind of have an aversion to ripping the boxes open. I don't know why. Okay, and again, I don't need those, but I might use the mounting lugs. I'll talk about those in a little while, but they always tend to be useful for things like this. If you do any sort of Arduino type electronics and you use servos to control things, these sorts of tops are quite useful for literally doing that, turning this rotary movement into a parallel movement. Now then, this one effectively goes on pointing that way. I'm going to assume that that's the center point, and I'm just going to rotate it and find out. So that's that way. As I say, you shouldn't really do this. You can damage the gears, but take care. I've never actually damaged any gears, but I understand it's possible. Okay, I'm going to screw this in again. This is the wrong screwdriver for that. And this is where a whole set of these sort of replaceable bits come in useful for things like this, where you suddenly find you need a different size screwdriver. Again, I'm not cranking it down. Well, I've also got to be careful. If I screw it in too tight, it will actually strip the plastic threads, at which point it's, in this particular servo, it's cheaper to throw it away and buy another one than it would be to get some servo gears and replace the gear. Okay, so that's two parts almost finished. What I've missed is the things that go in the holes, which are the metal balls. Now I've got a series of them here, so I need 6 MA16 and MA15. Okay, so they are both .4mm and 5mm ball connectors. Okay, that doesn't help because I don't know how many is in the pack. So I'm looking at this. It's either the silver and the gold, or some of the gold things, or I don't think it's the silver one because it looks like they've got short threads. So as I don't know if they're two different sizes or they're the same size. So what I should have in this, if you ever have this sort of dilemma, what you've got in here at the back is a complete set of parts set. It's So I'm just going to skip through all the way to the back of the manual, and what we've got here is all the parts. So I'm now looking for part bag A, which is this one, and it will tell me that I've got, by looking at the top here, which you can't really see I'm afraid, without me zooming in, which won't. But what we've got at the top here is we've got a list of what's in this bag, and what it's telling me is I've got one long one, which is a 17, either call it MA17. It's a 5mm ball. I have two MA16s, which are also 5mm balls, and I have one MA15, which is this smaller one here. So just by looking at the numbers and the colours, so you know the thread sizes, this is a long thread. I've only got one long thread one, it has to be that. It's also silver, that's light, these are dark. So, and then I'm looking two of one and one of the other, two of one of the other, so I can tell them apart. So when I now go back to the start of this thing here, and I'm looking for an MA15 and an MA16, I know that I'm looking for one of these gold ones, one of the large gold ones, and one of the small gold ones, or the small gold one. So that's one of them, and that's the other. So what I'm going to do now though, before I go any further, is I'm going to put these things back in here. I'm also going to need some nuts, but they're in a different bag. So putting these parts in here, because it would be very easy to get some of the bags mixed up. And if you do that, you'll then spend ages trying to work out what is which, and get quite frustrated at times from that. So I now know that's bag A, and all the bits are back in it, and I now need from bag BA, which is this bag here, 2 nuts. Oh no, they're from 2 bags. BA1, and I've got to go into a different bag, which is BB, which I don't think I've got in. So BA1 is interesting. Excuse me a second, I am just taking a look at this card. Oh yeah. I was looking at this and thinking there's 3 different nuts in there, and I could only see 2 on the back of this card. The third one is on the other side, but I hadn't seen. So I'm looking for a nut which is dark coloured and doesn't have a flange on it. And yes, I have opened this. So I'm just going to ease one out. As I said before, I'm not fully opening these bags because it makes it really easy for stuff to just spray out all over the place and get lost. So I've just got a tiny hole in it at the moment, which allows me to get the odd one out. Once I get to actually using most of those in one go on some of the later stages, then we'll open the bag and spray them all over the place.